Welcome to Sports Tonight Live. It's 7 o'clock on Saturday evening, and the main objective of this show is to get your thoughts on today's games. And there has been one or two shocks, maybe one or two shocks to come over the weekend. We know that as we speak, Arsenal are drawing against Crystal Palace after going 1-0 behind. But the big story and the big talking point today was at Old Trafford, where Manchester United lost at home to Swansea. We'll get more about that a little bit later on. Let's introduce the panel. With us this evening is Jonathan Sear, Nottingham Forest fan.
Yeah, look.
You had a good afternoon watching some of the action?
I had a really good afternoon today.
Okay.
Would have loved to get all the 3 points, but just wasn't our day today.
Yeah, well, maybe it's your season. You've predicted that Nottingham Forest will win the Championship.
Yes, I did.
And I promised to give a forfeit if that happened. Sam?
Good evening, Peter. Great to be here.
Yeah,
Football's back.
Absolutely, football's back, and you're giving us the Crystal Palace angle a bit later on.
Yeah, I'm a big Palace fan. I've got an eye over there on the monitor just seeing what's going on, but we've obviously had a really busy little week with comings and goings of managers.
And we'll get your take on what you think the situation might be there. We also want your take as well, the fans, on what you feel has gone on at Crystal Palace. One more guest to invite onto the panel was Marcus Shearer. Good evening.
Hello.
Yeah, and Marcus, there's no connection to Alan Shearer.
No, not directly. There is a connection to. Do you remember Mark Kinsella of Charlton?
Right. Okay. What's the connection? We don't know about this.
Very, very distant cousin, Republic of Ireland footballer.
Right.
I have to go way back through the family tree, but
Does he know this? Does he know that? Yeah.
No idea.
Oh, well.
So Mark Kinsella, if you're watching, Marcus Shearer, your cousin, your long-distance cousin, is sitting on the chair tonight. We've got a lot to talk about. Let's get over to the girls in Twitter Terrace, we're going to call it this evening. Kerry Armstrong and Rebecca Adams are going to take your tweets for this evening, get over there, and also get the roundup of some of the scores this evening.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Peter. Of course, if you are joining us this evening, we need to hear from you. If you could tweet us, that would be wonderful, at Sports Tonight TV. We'd love to hear from all of you, but actually, specifically, if we could start with you, Swansea fans and Man U fans, your thoughts on today's match, where it's going to go, where you see yourself placing. Is it too early to predict it? And of course, Rebecca has got all the scores so far this evening.
Okay, well, first one to tell you about, as Kerry and Peter mentioned, is Swansea Man U. Now, being a Swansea fan, I was obviously very pleased with this. We went away to Old Trafford and actually came away with a 2-1 win. Ki Sung-young scored in the first half. Captain Rooney equalised before Gylfi Sigurdsson scored the winner. Now, let us know, Swansea fans, if you're pleased to see Gylfi Sigurdsson back at Swansea. I know I am, obviously. And the second game to tell you about, Carrie and I went along to Upton Park earlier to see West Ham against Tottenham. Quite contentious game, 2 red cards in that game, and a last-minute win for Tottenham. That was defender Eric Dier with a 93rd minute goal.
It really was a jam-packed week, so do get involved with us at Sports Tonight TV. You're going to get a chance to phone in later as well, which will be wonderful. But I'm going to pass it back to Pete. As soon as I have some tweets, we'll let you know.
Absolutely, and the number, they'll be tweeting the number, and I'll give you that number now. It's 0207 908 7289. That's 0207 908 7289. If you're a bit frustrated with QPR, I certainly was today, what do they need to stay up? How disappointed were you with Manchester United today? Presumably you think that Old Trafford is no longer a fortress. The girls will be tweeting away. Don't forget to, if you are, join us on sportsnightlive.com to get involved. You can also download the app for Android, iPhone and iPad. Now, we are hoping to have a Swansea City fan on the phone. Good evening, Jim.
Hi there, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. I suppose at the end of the day, you're delighted with today's performance.
Yeah, I am. It's a great result. I had a feeling, I blogged about it on my site last night, that I thought we'd beat United today, and I was right.
And in terms of how you felt before the game, was it a game where you were a little bit sort of nervy about Man United, bearing in mind they had a good pre-season? Was you thinking, well, we might be getting the stuff in here, 3 or 4-0?
No, not at all. I've got it on my website, SCFC2. I blogged about it last night, and I said that I felt that United were there for the taking. I didn't feel their team was. I didn't think they were a team that I feared. And I think that people have underestimated us as a football club, and they've absolutely, a lot of pundits have thought that we were going downwards rather than upwards, and I think they're all wrong, and I'm glad we stuck it to them.
And in terms of today, what were the positives for you as a Swansea fan in terms of positioning? Who was starred today for you?
Well, I think, it was a great team effort. I think it's very difficult to pick one player out from all of the guys there. I mean, Ashley obviously got man of the match, and I think he was outstanding, but Geordie Amat did well alongside him. I think, Gylfi Sigurdsson did what we know he can do, which is score goals. I mean, there's a little bet for you. I think I'd have Gylfi Sigurdsson to score 15 goals in the Premier League easily this season. I think the midfield, Key and John Joe Shelby were disciplined where they need to be. So I think it was all round a really good team performance. We were solid at the back. We looked good going forward. And being honest, what annoyed me a bit more is that I think it was all about what United didn't do rather than what we did do. And that's the shame of today, I think, in some cases.
And in terms of what you did do, obviously you came up with the goods. And defensively, I presume that you must have been delighted as well, because Man United did put on the pressure. At 1-1, there was a case that they were looking more likely to score.
Yeah, they were, and I think it was Januzaj was causing some problems down the right-hand side, and I think it was a credit to Gary Monk that he took Neil Taylor off. He'd been booked and brought Dwight Tiendali on, and I think that gave the defence a little bit a bit more pace down that left-hand side as well. The whole team played very well and was solid. I thought Fabianski was good in goal. I mean, it all bodes well, but being honest, I'm not surprised. I didn't expect us to do badly this year. I think we'll be a top 10 team. And I think that's what today proved. And yeah, it's early stage in the season, but we've got goals in us going forward, and I think that's the key in the Premier League. You've got to be able to score goals, and we will score plenty of goals this year.
And finally, do you think there'll be any more business for Swansea? Any more sort of going out? Maybe any more coming in to strengthen the team between now and deadline day?
Yeah, well, obviously they've got Federico Fernandez, who's just about to join from Napoli, and he will hopefully be confirmed early next week. And I think there's probably a couple of other fullbacks and maybe a defensive midfielder that they'll bring in. We haven't got Leon Britton there today, and obviously when Leon comes back, that'll be great. I think the key issue is always about Wilfred Boney. Can we keep Wilfred Boney? The reality is, someone wants him, they're going to have to spend 25 million plus on him. And if they don't, want to spend that, then they can stay away. So I think my gut feel is that they'll bring players in and they'll keep the squad they've got, and I feel very, very upbeat about the season, but not OTT. Just we're a good Premier League team, and I think we'll continue to prove that throughout the next 7 or 8 months. Okay, fantastic. And before you go, final prediction for the season. You give us a place in. Yeah, I'm going to go for, I probably would have said 11th before, but I'll go for 9th now. Okay, all the best. Thanks very much indeed, Jim. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Well, we want you, the fans, to maybe respond to that. Man United fans, how disappointed were you today? It certainly took us by surprise. Swansea fans, there's going to be a lot of you out there. Get in touch. You can ring us 0207 908 7289. Or if you're a Man United fan, look, we're saying the fortress is no longer a fortress at Old Trafford. What do you think about Wayne Rooney being captain of Manchester United? Did he set a captain's example today? Your team got beat. Tweet us in to Kerry Armstrong and Rebecca Adams in Twitter Terrace. Lads, let's take a view of that game. Certainly from my point of view today, I thought it was a nailed on certainty for a home win. Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. I would have pegged United for a win. They had a very strong pre-season. They beat just about all the teams that lay before them, including fairly highly publicised friendly against Liverpool, which they talk about saying it's not going to be a friendly for them. No match between those two teams are ever friendly, but they came out of that with a win. They also bought well over the summer. They do need a couple more hits. I was going to say, I was quite surprised when I looked at the lineup today. I consider myself an avid football fan, but even I was struggling to name some of the Man United players. Yeah. I mean, I was shocked. They had a debutant today. And I think the one thing we must do is, as we have done, I'm really glad we opened the show with Jim, give credit to Swansea, because I thought they played really well, efficient football, nothing too flashy, nothing, but they went to Old Trafford and they did something that teams 5 years ago wouldn't have dared do. Gave it a go. They pushed on, they looked for chances, and they created. And that's the point, isn't it, Marcus? You know, teams are now not afraid to go to Old Trafford. Oh, absolutely not, especially if you come with the right tactic. I mean, a team like Swansea, we all know they're great at possession, keeping the ball in the base themselves, sort of almost tick-attacker-esque, but when watching them today, they were very disciplined. They would sit back, they would wait for the pressure to come on from Man United, and just hit them with that pace, going down the wings with Dyer. And even after Boney came off and Gomes came on, the way he held up the ball and just wasted time, it was a really efficient performance. And it's funny, Swansea have really gone under the radar this summer in terms of transfers and deals. You've seen Vorm and Ben Davis, both go to Tottenham and brought in Gomes, and they haven't sort of, really been sort of, doing sort of big business. No. So to go to Old Trafford and get a result like that,
I mean, at one point I've completely forgotten Gary Monk was still in charge. So, yes.
Well, I'm going to have to interrupt you there, Marcus. We've got a Manchester United fan on the phone. We got you down as Bricky. Good evening, Bricky.
Good evening.
Thanks very much for joining us. Has the wheel come off already?
No, I think it's a combination of things. I think, to be fair, we know the reinforcements, and we've known that for a while. I think injuries are taking an effect, and he's trying to change things as well. It's not something that's going to change overnight. So I think Swansea probably caught us on a good day, but then sort of full credit to them. They didn't have many chances, but they finished what they needed to.
Can I ask you a straight question? Obviously, Man United have done so well up to last year. Would you name players that you think shouldn't be in the Man United 11?
From today?
Yeah.
Well, I think you look at. I think somebody sort of. I mean, it's a bit harsh on him, but probably somebody like Ashley Young. I think he's a squad player, not much more than that. Same with like Chris Smalling, even Fletcher. I mean, I love Fletcher, but he's not what he was. And you know, you can probably carry big players like that, but there was too many of them today, unfortunately, and that's because we've not got the depth that we should have, which is a problem that's gone back 3, 4, 5 years now.
And do you think, obviously, you're rumoured to take Vidal and one or two others. How much is actually needed to make Man United a Champions League force for this season? And do you see it happening? Do you think you'll get the players in before transfer deadline day?
I think we'll bring a couple of players in. I think that's got to be done, and they know that. It's probably a case of just making sure they get the right players and not just buy for the sake of it. To get Champions League this season, I think we definitely need a centre-half. I think that was evident today, because as soon as Evans drops out, then we are definitely struggling there, especially if we want to play free. Need another midfielder, and I think what Van Gaal said about a winger was probably quite pertinent as well, because looking at the team today, it was only really Januzaj out wide that was creating an awful lot.
And did Ashley Young play in the wing-back position, or did he play more? I mean, did they go with the 3-5-2?
They started off that way. They started off that way, and he was on the left-hand side with Lingard on the right-hand side, but then once the second half, he did a bit of a change, ended up actually at left-back, which, you know, I'm not critical of his performance. I thought he did an awful lot today, but you know, you shouldn't be having essentially what is a right winger at left back. I think that just highlights the problems in the squad, to be honest, at the moment. And
Paul Scholes actually just come out and said tactically he felt that Van Gaal got it wrong. I mean, where do you go from here? I mean, obviously you experienced an awful year last year. I mean, is it? Do you think it will get better throughout the season? It's just a blip, and you think it'll get better?
I think it will. I think, you know, you look at somebody like Van Gaal, when he's gone into places like Barcelona and Bayern Munich, it's taken a few months, and, you know, it's not like, I mean, I use the example, when Moyes came in, we still tried to essentially play very similar to how we did under Ferguson. That's totally different now. You know, we're trying to play a whole new shape and try and sort of get players back confident as well, and that doesn't happen overnight. That will take a month or two to start to even just bed in. So, you know, I still think top four's more than achievable with the right impetus, right players, and right ideas. But, you know, it's not going to be a quick fix, and I think, you know, we understand that, or the majority of people understand that, and, you know, all we can do at the moment is just try and stay positive and stay behind the team.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you very much indeed. For what it's worth, I think Man United will still get in the top four, and I think obviously you can make a judgment maybe after 10 games and not one. But thanks very much indeed.
Absolutely, totally agree.
Absolutely. Well, thanks very much indeed for joining us, Bricky.
No problem. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. I mean, obviously, Man United fan. I mean, we're going to hopefully have one more on as well. But, you know, you've got to take it in your stride, haven't you?
I disagree. I think for them to get top four football, they're going to have to show vast improvement. It wasn't that they were awful today, but I just think the quality of this league right now, genuinely, there is a top 6 or 7 teams that I can quite conceivably see beating Man United. I don't think anyone will fear them when they go to Old Trafford, which will affect them. And on the road, whilst the pressure's off because they've not got their own crowd, they're going to be facing teams like as far down as Everton that won't have that fear factor. And I really can see United not having a terrible season.
It's against Swansea. That's the thing. I mean, if we're playing Arsenal today, you can maybe accept it. It's against a lower team. Yeah. We're going to carry on talking about this game because that's obviously the big story. Don't forget, get your tweets into Twitter terrace, the two girls there, Rebecca and Kerry. We're back after this short break.